What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Nightmares Minicast, where we talk about all things horror, movies, video games, television shows, arts, whatever the fuck we feel like.
We have time for this, Mark. It's a minicast. Get right into it.
Except just in a shorter context. Today we are talking about the Vince Vaughn movie Freaky.
Originally titled Freaky Friday the 13th.
That's awesome, and that actually makes a lot of fucking sense. Why those things happen in the movie.
I'm glad they shortened the title, though.
That's a goddamn mouthful.
It really is.
It really is. So essentially, the story, if you haven't seen the trailer, Vince Vaughn's character is called the Butcher. He's basically a serial killer.
Is a serial killer. There's no essentially about it.
Yeah,
he straight up murders people.
And pretty well, actually. He's pretty good at it. I will give him that. And then there's another girl named Allie, I believe that's the character's name.
Millie, I believe.
Minnie, okay.
Millie.
That's a name I haven't heard in many a year.
Who's a normal teenage girl. Unfortunately, she just recently lost her dad, and her family's kind of in a weird disarray. Her mom's kind of a
alcoholic.
Yeah. And then I guess not kind of, but actually is an alcoholic. Yeah. And her sister is a career-driven police officer. And so the Butcher ends up killing a bunch of teenagers at the very beginning and gets a sacrificial or a Mayan dagger or Aztec dagger that essentially allows people to switch bodies. And it becomes a Freaky Friday kind of situation. And then thus comedy, heart, and overall a pretty decent movie ensues.
It's Freaky Friday, but instead of a mother and a daughter, it is a teenage girl and a serial killer.
And this director has been known for that. He takes took the Groundhog's Day formula and turned it into a horror thing, and then now he's taken the Freaky Friday thing and turned it into a horror thing. So I'm very curious on what he'll do next.
What will he do next?
Hopefully,
whatever the fuck he wants.
Hopefully, we get Happy Death Day 3.
That'd be nice. I still gotta see Happy Death Day 2.
Or the crossover Freaky Death Day.
I'm in. I'm in. So Brandon, what did you think of the movie?
So I watched it the other week when it first came in from Amazon. I actually did a triple feature: Happy Death Day 2 You, and Freaky.
Nice.
And I liked it the first time. Wasn't outright in love with it. I do feel the ticking clock aspect of they need to switch their bodies back in 24 hours or else the switch is permanent, because having that 24-hour ticking clock, I feel kind of took away from time spent in the actual situation. Like, I feel like this, because like when the serial killer is in her body, he is really changing the way that people are looking at her, even though he really doesn't care. He's just literally using her body to kill people. But everybody takes notice about like the new personality, the new clothes she's wearing. He doesn't care at all what they're thinking, but all the kids at school, like, her reputation is basically changing, and for the better, actually. And I feel like that if it didn't have that 24-hour ticking clock, if they let the switch remain for a couple of days, I would have been really interested to see where they could have taken this.
I agree. I didn't even think about that, but I do agree with that statement. I think there would have been more interesting for character development. I think I probably would have got more character development on the serial killer when it's in the girl's body, even more. There was quite a bit of character development on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked it if there was just a little bit more stretch, because it would have been a little bit more balanced. But
that's just saying what I would have done differently had I had the premise. But judging the movie we actually got, still a very fun movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was watching it with the director's commentary before you came over, and it actually made me appreciate a lot more of it. Man, it's a really fun movie. I actually also like the girls' two friends. They're very fun.
Yeah, you know what? And a lot of times it's really tricky. Sometimes you get into those situations and the friends can be fucking annoying.
Yeah.
And they actually felt like real people.
They felt like friends and not just there for comic relief.
Correct. And they could have easily been that. And even, you know what? I think I often notice this the most when characters do something really fucking cheesy, but you still appreciate it, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cute, whatever, and but you don't. It doesn't make you cringe because you actually like the characters. Was the whole fucking handshake thing that they do? Like in any other movie, if that character development wasn't there, I would have been like, "That's
work
fucking stupid."
for me is it came back. It wasn't just some one-off friendship thing. It actually served a purpose later on for when she's in his body, and it's something that only they would. It's a visual thing that only they would know.
Correct.
And so it makes them being convinced that she's in his body work visually.
Yeah. No.
And so on that, like if it was a one-off thing, I would have hated it. But the fact that they wrote it in there specifically to bring back for a story-driven purpose. It works.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is certainly not an original idea. It's been done before, but it was a pretty good take on it. The funny thing is I like that they're starting to shift some of these classic stories into the horror genre. It kind of makes it really entertaining. You can push boundaries and do things that you normally do.
Yeah.
And I actually, surprisingly enough, that I actually really enjoyed a lot of the kills in the movie. They're
all
actually
done
some really
practically.
Good ones. Yeah.
Probably the two favorite kills of mine are actually the first kill with the wine bottle being shoved down that one kid's throat.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
How they did that was pretty interesting. So when he actually shoved the wine bottle down the throat, it was a dummy. Mm-hmm. And then the extreme close-up of the throat and the bulge, that was CG enhanced. Just that bulge coming out of his throat. And then the shot where the glass is actually broken through his neck, that was the actual actor with prosthetics in him.
Nice.
And then the second favorite kill of mine is Alan Ruck as the jerk-ass teacher.
The shop teacher.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. That was all the way through, Jack.
Yeah, where he got sawed in half by the buzzsaw, and they had to create like an actual replica of Alan Ruck down to like skin tone, the color of his teeth. Like they took a head cast, a teeth cast. They had to replicate the color of his hair, and they basically just cut that in half, had like the muscles and spinal cord and bones and everything sticking out of it. And they rigged that to spray blood, and they also rigged the table saw to spray blood as well.
Nice.
They had a 50-foot high ceiling on that set, and the blood was hitting the ceiling.
Awesome. For everybody who doesn't know who Alan Ruck is, he played Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was Ferris's best friend, the one who wore the Red Wings jersey the entire time. That was pretty fucking enjoyable.
I really liked the beginning with like the kids. It's the standard horror movie beginning.
Yeah. With
all the kids, but instead of just like having one victim, it's a whole mess of victims. It was like 4 or 5 kids. I think it was 4 kids.
4 kids. Yeah.
And then of course the parents coming in and discovering him and discovering the dead bodies. And he said he wanted it to be like a throwback to 90s slashers.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Nice change of pace from like everybody doing 80s right now. So it felt kind of refreshing to hear somebody say 90s for once.
It was very reminiscent of that. It had that same feel from Scream when the parents come home and they see her hanging from the tree. And also too, a lot of those kills were really enjoyable and brutal, especially when he fucking drowns the chick in the toilet and smashes her head with the seat. It got a good running pace. It set the standard of what this movie is going to be right up front. So,
and I like how like the first title you see as soon as the movie opens, Wednesday the 11th.
Yeah, the 12th and the 13th, which makes a lot more sense now. I thought it was just something clever. I had no idea that was the original title for it. But overall, really enjoyable movie. Vince Vaughn did a great job. I would probably say that. I think that's about 80% of the movie for me. I think if it was somebody else, I don't think I would have had as much fun.
Ask you this real quick. Would the movie have worked as well had they, because like the teenage girl in this movie she feels much more like a real person than the cliche teenage girl.
True.
I like that from a writing perspective. But it's also because she's a very much more reserved person. It was like once the body switch happens, like she's still kind of that reserved person in a way. How would you have felt had they gone like the whole Jack Black and Jumanji route?
I don't.
It would have been a completely different movie. That is for sure.
I don't think it was necessary. And actually, I really liked the subtle differences. And this is something maybe I caught that maybe other people didn't caught. But there were subtle, but there were very significant differences in how she, and how she was different from one person to the other. Very simply, actually, was her posture.
Yeah.
Her posture completely shifted. When she was the weaker girl versus that. Her attitude towards certain things.
But I'm talking about in terms of Vince Vaughn's performance.
Oh, in terms of Vince Vaughn's performance? No, because I think he would have lost some heart.
Okay.
I think it would have lost.
That's very fair.
I think you wouldn't have had that moment in the backseat of the car.
Yeah.
You would, if it was too over the top, everything else. And you're also missing out on a girl, I think you would be very disrespectful to the plot that was built in and the story that was built in, because you had something that was
the dramatic subplot.
Correct. You have something very intricate with losing her dad, and how her family dynamic is shifted up, and how you integrate that within within different parts when she's in the trying on the clothes as Vince Vaughn, and she's talking to her mom on the other end, and then also too later on when her sister is coming to arrest her, and she says sorry for drowning your hamster. I mean, I think that there were some very, very important things there were done in a subtle way that made it even more impactful. I think I would have enjoyed it if it was Jack Black. It was kind of crazy, but I think that it would have been missing that extra something, that extra heart. And it's kind of like the difference between, I don't know, it's kind of the difference between Scary Movie and fucking Final Girls.
Yeah, because I saw no trailer for this movie.
Good.
All I knew was the premise, and it was just, Freaky Friday, teenage girl switched with serial killer. So going in, I was expecting that sort of Jack Blackish Jumanji performance. So when I didn't get that, that was kind of a minor shock to me. But yeah, it would not have been the same heartfelt movie it was.
Fair enough. And I think that's not shocking from the guy who did Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Because Happy Death Day had a subplot in it, had a little bit more heart in it. Is it wacky? Is it is a wacky movie for sure? But did it have something else to say? Yes.
Oh, another screenwriting thing I really liked about Freaky. Okay, at the beginning when Vince Vaughn is chasing Millie, so what's something that always annoys everybody when it's just like when the killer catches up with somebody who's clearly running faster than them. So the way that they wrote around that was they had her be the school's mascot at the football game. So she's still wearing this huge beaver costume. So it's like that's why the killer can catch her, because she's still wearing this cumbersome thing.
Oh, it was so fucking funny. And then at the very end they kind of covered that with all when she got injured, Vince Vaughn's got injured as her, and all of her friends literally ran past him to go catch the butcher. You know what, I think I agree with you though. I think that this could have been even more interesting had it been stretched out just a little bit time wise. But one of two things could have happened. Either you could have ended up feeling flat, or it could have been more enhanced. I don't know. Like it could have gone either way. That can
be literally said about every story ever put to page, screen, video game, whatever.
True. Very, very true.
It's not the story itself; it's how you tell it.
True, and I think overall it was really well told. I don't really have a lot of I don't have any nitpicks or complaints about this. I mean,
interesting tidbit from the commentary that you heard as well. They could not do any reshoots for this movie because of COVID. So everything we see in the movie is first round of shooting.
That's actually cool.
Yeah. And he also said even if we didn't have the COVID restrictions and everything, and even if we wanted to do reshoots, we couldn't because we were out of money.
In the commentary, by the way, Zach, the reason why we were laughing our asses off when you were walking out, it was because he's like, yeah, we there's an app that we use that tracks the weather, and
it's called like Dark Skies or Black Skies or something like that.
Everybody fucking watches that and has panic attacks, worried about the fucking weather.
Because they did have to deal with rain and weather, and they shot it in Atlanta, Georgia during the winter.
And that could be very, very problematic with weather. It really can.
And I liked how he was talking about how, like, during the climax, he was like, we had so many issues that day. I feel like we just didn't get anything. And then when he saw the edit, he was like, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But then the exact opposite also happens, where it's like you think you're killing it that day on set, and then you see the edit, and it's like, oh, no, this doesn't work at all.
I'm insane. I think
he sounded very down to earth.
Extremely down to earth. And I think he's an amazing talent. I think that I'm very looking forward to seeing what else he has up his sleeve. I think it's interesting. He's kind of hit this little beat where he takes themes that have been used in other types of movies and then brings them in to the horror fold. I think I said that earlier, but yeah. I think that I wouldn't really want anybody else to do it. I think he's the guy to get that done, get that job done. It's like the director who did the thing about the oil spill and also about the Boston Marathon bomber.
Peter Berg.
He kind of hit a stride, hit that kind of genre. He's doing very well in this type of genre, and I'd be very interested to see what other themes he uses in this in that type of the classical themes with a horror twist.
I would like to see him finish the Happy Death Day trilogy first, because I know he has said that that's something he wants to do. Mm-hmm. Even though Zach and I were actually talking about this the night I first watched Freaky, and it was the reason why Happy Death Day 3 didn't get the green light right away was because it didn't make as much money as they thought. And we actually looked at the budgets of these three movies, Happy Death Day 2, and Freaky, versus their box office. And Happy Death Day was by far the biggest success of the three. It absolutely made its budget back and in spades. Happy Death Day 2 was about twice as expensive as Happy Death Day, but that was still under $10 million. Mm. And it still made somewhere between 30 and to 50 million at the box office. It was twice as expensive and made half as much as the first one. But in all honesty, that was still it still made its budget back multiple times over.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes me wonder if it was an inflated marketing budget that fudges the numbers on why they didn't give it the green light, because only in today can a movie with Batman and Superman make over $1 billion at the box office and still be considered a financial flop because of the marketing budget? That is the world we're living in with budgets. So, but even Freaky made, I think it doubled its money back on box office, and that was released during COVID. So it's all three of these movies made their budgets back, one of which released during COVID.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Give this man whatever movie he wants next.
Exactly. I think that this guy's actually really talented. I think he's doing good things for the horror community. I think he's doing good things for offbeat genre horror. It's not a parody. It's the wrong word, or it's not even a satire.
He does horror comedy very well.
Horror comedy.
He strikes the balance very well.
Yeah, he does very, very well, and I like. I've always loved horror comedy, so I think that this guy's amazingly talented. Vince Vaughn did a hell of a job. The girl who played the girl did a hell of a job. I think the cast overall was really, really good. I highly recommend this. For some reason, I have a hard time with being this movie was amazing. I think it was a lot of fun, mm-hmm. and I think I only say that because I've seen this fucking concept done many times. That's the only reason that's keeping me from saying it's awesome.
So it was cool seeing it in a horror context.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really fun movie. I very much recommend it. I actually really highly enjoyed the director's commentary. So yeah, if you do a triple feature of the two Happy Death Day movies and Freaky, you'll have a very fun night. Zach, I know you have not had a chance to see the movie yet, but do you have any thoughts you want to share about, are you looking forward to watching it at some point, or How do you feel?
Squirrels.
Squirrels. All right. Well, that does it for today's Nightmares Minicast. You can listen to all of our other podcast episodes wherever podcasts are available, under the Nightmares Podcast, of course. Also, be sure to look us up on all of our social media at Midwest Horror Network on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and
Slasher. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube / listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and stab that like button, smash that subscribe, and click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we drop amazing content right here on MHN. And hey, if you've already stabbed the subscribe button, go ahead and stab the share button. That'd be awesome too. And then, of course, if you are listening to this on any kind of podcast streaming, press the follow button so you can also be reminded every time we drop anything on the Nightmares Podcast. We will see you next time. Bye, guys.